opening shot. Turns out taxpayers will likely have to dole out something for a new Chicago Bears stadium in Arlington Heights. New stadium renderings were released this week by the designers, Manica Architecture, and a brand new economic impact study says the new facility will generate $1.3 billion in tax revenues over the next 40 years. So, of course, there's no free lunch. The report estimates the team will need about $855 million in taxpayer subsidies for some infrastructure upgrades around the development. So that includes a new ramp off of Route 53, new roads and bridges, tunnels perhaps to get past the train tracks on the north border of the property. Now, Illinois lawmakers have repeatedly said they are a hard no on taxpayer funding for a new stadium, but a hard maybe for the things surrounding it.
We do that for businesses all over the state. I can name you lots that have recently, over the last 2 years, for example, come to the state of Illinois where, yeah, we build roads out in front of the factory or the headquarters. We build sewers. We help bring in a substation, whatever it is that's required for, infrastructure. But it's not an unending expenditure that we will put in.
In addition, the Bears are asking Springfield to give them, quote, tax certainty, a.k.a. the ability to negotiate their property tax rates years into the future before the development is even built. That is something that could save them hundreds of millions more. And that's going to be a much heavier lift, as lawmakers have been cold to this idea thus far. Little indication anything is going to change in this month's upcoming veto session, which takes place from October 28th through the 30th. Now, Pritzker upped the ante when he said, okay, Bears, you want this bill? Then maybe you got to come up with a way to pay off the nearly $500 million debt that still exists on the renovation of Soldier Field that happened more than 20 years ago. Let's imagine this tax fight as if it was a football game. The Bears and state lawmakers have consistently been trading 3-and-outs, barely advancing the ball anywhere. But as the Bears' play on the field proves, it's a long season. Things could change. The Bears still have time to put together that proverbial game-winning drive. Tonight, shutdown day one comes to a close, while Illinois lawmakers believe this dysfunction might be here to stay for a long time. Illinois' Department of Public Health issues its own vaccine guidance, breaking with the controversial policies of National Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And Pope Leo XIV comes to the defense of his fellow Illinoisan, Senator Dick Durbin, and has a message for Catholics who claim to be pro-life. Welcome to the Chicago Report, where we take you behind the headlines and beyond the spin. I'm Paris Schutz. The federal government is closed for business and might be for a long time to come, even if it doesn't feel like it right now. After all, Social Security checks are still going to be cut, FAA air traffic controllers are still going to work, and the courts will still be hearing cases. Republicans control both chambers of Congress, but still need 7 Democratic senators to support a continuing resolution to fund the government. Democrats won't sign on because they say the bill ends Obamacare subsidies, and that could mean health insurance will become unaffordable for millions.
Let's reopen the government before we have our negotiation about health care policy. That's what the American people demand, and that's certainly what the President of the United States wants.
How are we supposed to negotiate with President Trump when he's busy frying his mind in an AI fantasy world of mariachi bands and science fiction medbeds?
And joining me now is Congresswoman Delia Ramirez, a Democrat from Chicago. Congresswoman Ramirez, thanks for talking to us. Day one of this shutdown, how long do you anticipate this going?
Look, Paris, I'm hoping that Democrats and Republicans come back to D.C. as quickly as possible. I'm here now, and are able to pass a spending budget that protects the American people. And so my hope is that it won't last that long. But the last time you saw under President Trump, we were down for 35 days. It devastated us. It devastated so many of the critical services that people needed. And so my hope is we can come to a place where we can actually work together and open up the government as quickly as possible.
And I want to play a clip from your Republican colleague, Darren LaHood from Peoria, who basically said this issue of health care subsidies, this is not the time to be negotiating that. Let's take a look at that.
The Obamacare health care tax credits that you reference, Paris, those don't expire till the end of the year. So let's keep the government open till November 20th. Let's negotiate on that. It's very important that we try to reach a resolution. And the president and Republicans have said we're willing to do that. But don't hold hostage the American people. Don't shut down the government. Let's work to do that. And that's what's at stake here. And so, yes, we should have negotiation on that and try to work to resolve that.
Congresswoman, what about that perhaps the Democrats should just support a clean spending resolution here and negotiate health care subsidies at a different time?
Well, first of all, it's not a clean resolution. Let's just be very clear. We're talking about ACA credits expiring if we don't actually get it done now. And here's the point that Darren may not know because maybe he's not in the marketplace. I am. I pay for my mother's health care on the marketplace. On October 14th, open enrollment starts. You will see the difference in insurance premiums as early as 2 weeks from now if we don't resolve that right now. Waiting till November 21st when people have between October 14th and December 1st to finalize their open enrollment will actually devastate millions of people who would otherwise not have health care. You're talking about 22 million people who depend on the marketplace for their health care. This is not like a partisan issue or an unimportant issue. You're talking about people's health care, people having to choose between paying for their rent or paying for their health care. You and I both know that unfortunately, a lot of people are going to have to choose rent over health care, and that could be life or death. So look, they're in the majority, Paris. They have the House, they have the Senate, they have the White House, and some would argue they even have the Supreme Court. The ball's in their court. Why are they not here? Why is Darren not here in DC right now working to be able to address this issue, compromise and work with us, and finally pass a spending budget that honors and centers working people?
And Vice President Vance reiterated this messaging today, and Republicans have said Democrats, what they really want is health care for undocumented immigrants as part of this deal. Is that true?
Look, Ramirez, they think that if they keep repeating lies, they become true for them. I mean, the president is saying so much of the quiet part out loud. He wants political retribution, he wants retaliation, and he's going to use any possible way to do that, including vicious lies. Let me be very clear. The federal government does not provide health care for undocumented people. It doesn't, it has never done so, it never will. This is about the marketplace, ACA tax credits for 22 million people, 22 million US citizens and green card holders. That's what it's for. So it's a vicious lie. J.D. Vance needs to stop lying and actually do his job as vice president. This is a time that we should be asking ourselves, are people better today than they were January 21st? And if they're not, what do we do in this federal budget process to ensure that we're centering people and centering healthcare, which is such a critical issue in this country?
I want to shift gears, Congresswoman, to the notion of more military personnel coming to Chicago. You saw those images on Sunday of folks from Customs and Border Patrol marching with long guns around the loop, taking in folks that they saw that they suspected as undocumented based on their appearance. What's your reaction to that?
Paris, taking people based on their physical appearance, just hear that out. You're talking about going down Michigan Avenue and going after targeting tourists, because really on a Sunday, yeah, some of us locals are there, but for the most part, it is tourists from all over the world who are there, who are actually buying things from our local businesses, from the name brand businesses on Michigan Avenue. What you saw there was political theater to create chaos and violence in one of the most successful parts of the entire city and state. This is not creating any safety for people. Frankly, it's doing the opposite. People are feeling unsafe. People are wondering if they should go to work in one of the most busiest parts of the state of Illinois, Michigan Avenue, and stopping, interrupting, attacking, threatening people based on the color of their skin. That is not who we are as Americans. That is not who we should be as a government. We should be asking ourselves, how do we continue to increase economic stability, generate more income, create successful, beautiful, diverse cities, not do the opposite. What you're seeing is unconstitutional. What you're seeing is terror coming from our own president.
All right, Congresswoman Delia Ramirez from Washington, D.C., thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Paris.
And up next, health officials in Illinois take a firm stance against the policies of RFK Jr.